Okay, we have a 2001 L300 Saturn. It's a radiator problem. I'm going to show you guys how to pull this radiator and replace it. You'll have to take the old fan off and put it on the new one. You'll have to remove the battery. You'll have to remove the battery box. You'll have to remove the power steering box, and along with disconnecting the lines and the wirings. Most everything unclips. Nothing has to be cut and replaced. This is the new radiator that we're going to put in it. Make sure on this particular model that you have the transmission lines for the 20mm neck, the fill tube. The best way to determine this is whether you are standard or stick. If you're an automatic, you have the 20mm fill tube. If you're a stick, then you don't. You have the other one, which is actually a cheaper radiator. So alright, let's get started. Okay, so we pulled the battery out. This little box here is just going to slide right up. And there'll be one bolt holding that sleeve that slides on. You can just see it right there. I took it off. That's a 13mm. So I pulled that off. I broke loose all 7 of the 13mm nuts here. And down underneath the fuse panel, there's 2 13mm nuts. You can see there I've already taken off. So at this point now, you can just grab this and just lift it up. Wiggle it, shake it. It's not going to come all the way because the lines are still connected. But you're only going to need it up about that far. And take my word for it, if you're doing an automatic transmission, you want to take a moment and do this. If you're doing a standard transmission, you don't need to do this because you can reach that second hose. If you're doing an automatic transmission, you need to remove this because underneath that second hose, the lower radiator hose, is the transmission coolant line. That line you cannot get out with a line wrench unless you move this. So I mean, you can, but it's going to take you another 30-40 minutes fighting with it, and you're going to cut up some knuckles. Take my word for it. Move this. Just push it aside a little bit like that, and that's going to make all the difference in the world. So now we're going to take these 2 10mm here, and we're going to pull this power steering box off. You don't have to pull this off if you don't want to. You can disconnect the lines, and it will come out with the radiator and the fan when you pull it. But this is going to have to come off anyway to go on the other radiator. So my suggestion is, rather than drain it, lose all the fluid, just take loose the 2 lines, the 2 10mm, leave the hose connected, and just push this out of the way. Let it sit back out of the way. So you're not actually doing a lot of extra work. So, and I mentioned a line wrench. If you don't know what a line wrench is, stick around so you can use that. Otherwise you'll break those transmission lines. Hopefully you know what I'm talking about. If you look right here on the transmission line, I don't know if you can see this or not now that I pulled this battery box up. See all that gunk there they put on the transmission line? This is a temporary fix to a temporary situation. If you can get away with not doing this, don't do it. It's not going to last. If you see this stuff on the shelf and you think, oh, this is a miracle worker, this stuff's going to work, clearly this is not a suitable solution. So if you have to use it because you need to get to work tomorrow or something, there's all kinds of different little fixes, quick fixes, Bondo and stuff you can stick on these. But I promise you, none of them are a permanent fix to a permanent situation. You have to pull the radiator out and repair it properly. So if you want to use that stuff, use it at your own risk. I don't recommend it unless, again, you need to get to work in the morning. It's 10 o'clock at night. You'll fix this tomorrow when it's your day off, etc. Then go ahead and do what you got to do. But this is not a permanent fix. None of this Bondo stuff is. So, okay, we're going to go ahead and pull those. We're going to set them aside. And to give myself a little bit of leeway on the transmission, I'm going to go ahead and pull this 10mm and this 10mm radiator brackets. I'm going to pull those out, and I can actually lift up on, I'm sorry, not the transmission, the radiator. I can actually lift up on the radiator just a little bit, give it some flex in place so I can move it around and get these things disconnected. So again, we're going to start off with the power steering, 2 10mm. Set that aside, and the 2 10s on the radiator brackets at this point. Okay, so that power steering bracket is now off. There's one other bolt, 10mm, on the bottom right hand side there. And again, we're just going to push that back out of the way. This way, see, we don't lose any fluid. We got 2 clips on top of the radiator for the fans. We're going to unplug both of those and just pull those forward out of the way. Now that both mounts are off, I can get to the top radiator hose. We've taken that off. A little bit of your fluid came out. Now at this point, you can open the petcock, which is on the bottom left hand side. Reach up underneath. It'll be a little red plastic clip. You're just going to unscrew it counterclockwise and let the radiator drain. If you have clean fluid, you can go ahead and save that fluid. If you're not sure if it's clean, and in this case we know it's not clean because there's transmission fluid in it, we're not going to save it. And then on the top right hand corner right here is your overflow. You can pull that hose off, and the next step is going to be one tranny line, lower bottom right radiator hose, and the second tranny line's underneath that. So that is the next step at this point, and be right back. Okay, so now we're moving on to the transmission lines. These are line wrenches. These are the wrenches you want to use for these. If you don't use these, you're going to end up stripping the line. If you strip the line, if you use a regular wrench one time and you strip the line, you're going to have to continue to use the regular wrench. So use a line wrench so you don't strip it. And again, what I talked about earlier with this stuff, here's a prime example. This stuff is not even, you can see it, it's not even hardened up. It never turns to a solid state. So this is why you don't want to use this for a permanent fix to anything. So okay, so we're going to pull that transmission line off now, and then that hose, and then the other line. Okay, so I pulled the two 10mm bolts off of the fan right here and right there. The bottom two are clips. You just slide that right up. But I noticed I hit the air breather, so I went ahead and pulled those three 6.5mm. Those are called 6-point bolts. These ones here, oh sorry, where are they? Right there. And pulled those off. One was stripped, so I had to tap a 6 point on it, or 6mm. So anyway, I pulled those off, and then this particular vehicle, you can see back here, has an oil cooler as well. Most of them don't, but this one does. So the way you take it off is go right up underneath, one on the left side, one on the right side. Those are 10mm bolts. The two tops are clips that will slide out. At this point, we can lift the radiator right out of here. So let me go ahead and pull that out and be right back. Okay, at this point, the radiator is out. I found the crack in the radiator, and pretty much just clean up everything. Pull your top hose here all the way off where the thermostat is, and check your thermostat. Make sure it's opening and shutting. They're normally set at around 155 to 185. If you're not sure how to do that, I can make a video to show you how to do that. I'm going to do that on this vehicle. Clean up everything, reassemble it in reverse. When you get everything put back together, there's a process you have to do to get all the air out of the system. So that'll be our last step. So at this point, I'm going to put the new radiator in, run everything in reverse the way we did, hook everything back up, and then I'll be right back to show you exactly how to burp the system and make sure there's no air in the system. And that's about it. Okay, so everything's back in there now. We're going to burp the system. We're trying to get all the air. You see those air bubbles? We're trying to get all the air out of the system that we can. And the way to do that is just give it a little bit of fuel and rev it up a little bit and let everything cycle the way it should. Plus, we should see that level drop. I've topped it off completely because the thermostat should open up. So we want to make sure the thermostat is working as well. This is how we can test it. So we're going to get all that air out of there and wait for that level to drop, and we should be good to go. And then just check everything for leaks. And that's about it. I hope that helped you out, and good luck.